cosplay, pole dancing, professional wrestling, a turtle, and of course, comics. All things you could expect to find at this year's Brooklyn ComiCon. Taking place in the major R. Owens Community Center, this con certainly had quite a few activities packed into its relatively small space. It had all the usual offerings of a comic convention, such as vendors, comic artists, and a few celebrity pop culture guests. However, when I arrived late on that Saturday evening, I walked in on a medieval duel. How often do you find that? The professional wrestling shows were put on by Battle Club pros such as this duel, and others were done by Remarkable Pro Wrestling. I was outside the barricades for the duel, but for later matches they allowed me into the barricades to get some up-close shots. More to come soon. It was maces versus a battle axe. Who was gonna win? The sword dropped and it was on. These guys actually went pretty hard, more than I expected. While the outcome is predetermined, there were plenty of points at which you couldn't really tell. Like when you would hear the rattling from one of their weapons striking their opponent's helmet. You can't tell me that that didn't give them a ringer. Coming off of a concussion myself, it got me a little worried for these guys, but it looks like they were handling themselves just fine. It looks like it wasn't all weapon strikes, because you could see that boot right to Mr. Mace. Next, I stopped by Lauren's Ruined Creations tables. She has these homemade clay figures of nearly any fandom you could ask for. Anime, horror movies, Disney, superheroes, and professional wrestlers and more. She had them all. I was most impressed by the Sailor Senshi. She was sold all out of Usagi, but at least Rei was still there. She also had Rowdy Roddy Piper, who I dressed up as on day 2. Check out her work at Ruined Creations on Instagram. After that, I stopped by the work of artist Damian Scott, who makes these comic-style portraits of various famous figures. The inside of the portraits has culminations of the things that made these people iconic. What impresses me most about these pieces is that he's taken the artwork that these people have made to culminate into their facial features. My favorite is definitely this Dave Chappelle. All the Chappelle Show references make this a must-have for any Dave fan. Dave Chappelle truly is the comedy GOAT. If you ever wanted to check out more of Damian Scott's work, check it out through Bulletproof Comics. Each piece is loaded with detail. Right at the entrance, we had artist Keith Williams, who you may recognize from a lot of famous Marvel issues. Along this wall, we also had Tony James, a comic writer behind Star Noir. The artwork is fantastic, and what looks even better is that sandwich he had. Wish I could have some of that right now. Good on you, fella. Artists gotta eat too. At the end of the row, we had the Dracu booth. This seemed to be a family effort. 2 nephews and 2 pairs of uncles. This is a joint labor of Sincere Labor, Desmond Labor, Steve Cagney, and Talon Cagney. Sincere and Talon are grade school kids, with their dads helping them out to create this. Starting a comic journey so early is great to see, and I hope that they flourish. Sincere is not only the story creator, but the protagonist as well. Sincere and his friend Gia begin their story in Florida, where they find some dragon eggs in the woods. Gia's dragon seems to be able to teleport her about, and they need to find where these eggs came from and where they belong. Their journey takes them to Mexico, where they go to the Kukulkan Pyramid. It's an educational story where they learn about the environments they go to. All the while, they discover more about the dragons and more about the land. They also discover themselves in an equal measure. The end of the first issue has them meeting title character Dracu, and they're sent on their next quest. I think a lot of kids would get a lot out of this story, and I enjoyed it quite a bit reading through. The branding is quite nice. I loved the poly bag it came in, and if you're looking to support, visit dracu.co. In the way of food, they had watermelon and pineapple. Not your typical offerings for a convention. I don't know if they were a rip-off like most food at conventions, but I'm glad they had healthy choices. Local brewery Kings County Brewers Collective had their own branded cans for the event. $8 a can is a touch high, I'll admit, but they did have packs, and it's good to see support for a local brand. They had this giant inflatable octopus tentacle, which definitely stood out. I wonder why the organizers decided to place it next to so much anime stuff. I then headed over to Carl Paolino's booth. You may recognize his artwork from Celebrity Deathmatch. He made the clay figures you see through the series. I bought from him one of the PC-ROM games. I have no way to play it, but it was just too cool not to pick up. The inside cover shows the full roster, including an image of Tommy Lee beating on Marilyn Manson. Who would win that exchange? The back cover shows Busta Rhymes delivering a spin kick to Marilyn. Marilyn always seemed to survive the Celebrity Death matches. If you don't remember or were too young to have ever seen it, it was a show that took place on MTV from '98 to '02. It featured celebrities of the day fighting it out to the death. The series was revived in 2006, but was canned shortly after, as well as revival attempts not going through. I do hope that we see this come back someday. The concept art he had was just awesome, but the thing he was really there to promote was his new comic, Spontanea. She appears when she's needed most. Keep an eye out for his coming comic, as well as an interview soon to happen with Carl himself. Later that night was the Afterparty, quote unquote. I liked the idea behind it, but it was not executed well. They had the lights and the sound system working alright, but it lacked decoration otherwise. The music itself also was nothing to write home about. Honestly, I can be a bit of a snob on that front, but clearly a lot of people felt the same way, as there was not much dancing outside of what I'm showing here. Shouts to at NYC_Blankman, my friend Evan, who's doing the Wesley Snipes cosplay from White Men Can't Jump. Fella in the Dreads had some sweet moves too. Feel free to tag yourself if you find this. In the back of the auditorium, they had game stations, which nobody got up from. Yeah, I'm salty I didn't get a turn. From inside the barricades, I got to shoot Rikishi, WWE legend who introduced the professional wrestling segment of Day 2. He took his time to get to the ring, but who was gonna blame him, really? After a shake of the booty, the crowd was on their feet for him.
God damn Brooklyn, what's happening? Shit, I almost bust my ass coming up here. It's been a long time. Brooklyn, what's happening?
He went on to tell us just how much Brooklyn means to him.
It makes me want to back that ass up.
How is the crowd not gonna pop for that? He put tons of respect on the indie wrestlers that came through today, saying that they may be jabronis now, but that they're soon to be the headliners of Madison Square Garden. A great moment of a legend giving back to the community. He gave a little bit of family history, saying that they have a combined 75 years in the business. That's respect.
I want to tell you this on behalf of Samoan Dynasty. The bloodline is the timeline. You can hate it or you can love it, but you cannot knock the legacy of what my family has put into this industry of professional wrestling. 75 plus years. That's facts. And ain't no spoiler, ain't no cap. That's fact.
Before the speech ended, he anointed himself, rightfully so, the Tribal Cheeks.
My whole family's not here, but on behalf of my family, I can stand here as your tribal chiefs. I'm not a tribal chief, I'm your tribal chief.
He thanked the crowd and then, slowly, made his way out of the ring. The first pro wrestling event was a cosplay wrestle. It was Luigi versus Wario. Just by his ring entrance, I have to say, he could move pretty impressively in that costume. He was pretty well in character too as Luigi. You'll see from his ring moves when it happens. But then comes Wario. Portraying Wario also nailed the characterization, and he was able to move quite a bit for both a bigger guy and a guy wearing a costume. He flopped his way into the ring, and then the match was on. Luigi said a little prayer before shakily making his way over to shake Wario's hand, for which he was thusly snubbed. The adulation from the crowd wasn't going to help change Wario's mind, as he decided to go for a scare tactic. chasing Luigi out of the ring and around it before they made their way back in. Well, he was about to before Wario dragged him out and threw him right against the wall of the ring. If Luigi was going back in the ring, it was on Wario's turn. Wario slammed Luigi back down before giving Wario's version of a stink face. It seems he wanted to give some to the ref too, for which the ref was not having it. Wario was sure not to get a 5 count for that choke out against the ring ropes using his knee as leverage, but that doesn't stop him from arguing once again. It also didn't stop Luigi from making a prayer before getting thusly headbutted and stomped in the corner. A lot. The 4 count sounded and Wario just felt the need to argue once again with the ref. Wario took down Luigi in the turnbuckle corner with a slam, went for the 1 count. Luigi tried to mount himself a comeback and started to get a little bit of steam. How long was that going to last though, with Wario on the warpath? Things got really interesting when Wario decided to scoop him up and slam him back down to the ring. This resulted in 1, 2, 2 count. Another scoop body slam, followed by a body drop. Still only a 2 count. Luigi got himself back up and decided to mount himself a second comeback, going for punch after punch after punch. He started to feel a little momentum, going for a wind-up uppercut, and then finally going for a crotch kick and atomic drop. Really starting to feel the momentum now, he went for what looked like the crossroads, and only a 1 count for Luigi. Wario took Luigi's charge, trying to slam him back down before Luigi transitioned it into a DDT. 1, 2, 2 count. Luigi then Irish whipped Wario to the corner, gave him a clothesline, and gave him another one on the other side of the ring. Wario wasn't going to take this and decided to drop him. 2 count, minus a hat and mustache. Back in the match, Wario decided to Irish whip Luigi into the corner before Luigi came back and decided to drop him with another clothesline. Irish whip to the corner and a setup for a slam. Luigi took the second rope, pointed up to the crowd, and decided to give him a backdrop DDT. 1, 2, 3.
Here is your winner, Luigi!
Well, at least Wario finally got his hat back. Like brother, the next match featured Mario going up against Bowser. Mario, the babyface of the match, had to bask in the glory of the crowd. Bowser himself went for the Ultimate Warrior rope shake. Love the nod to the Warrior. Bell sounded and it was on once again. Even with Bowser being the heel, he still got a lot of love from the fans. It started with a beatdown of my fellow Italiano before going into the outside of the ring. Mario reached for the barricades, which did little against Bowser, who jumped from ringside onto Mario with a double axe handle to the head. The barricades were a further obstacle for Mario as he got chopped to the chest. Another chop later, and Mario's ready for a comeback, hitting him with a pound after pound and a chop of his own. Bowser had none of it and headbutted Mario against the barricade, who reached for help once again. A stomp followed instead of a chop this time, and another headbutt, and thrown into the ring. Bowser, wanting to come back strong, only found himself getting punched in the stomach. Time after time after time before slamming Mario back down. They go for the double hand lock, with Bowser wrenching his arms twice. Mario stands up strong, ready to make a comeback. Standing to his feet, he's ready to take back the power this time around. Yeah, don't forget who the main character of the story is. Bowser with that kick said the story's about to change. Mario tries to Irish whip him into the corner before getting brought down with a clothesline. Trying once again, Mario leaps over Bowser and delivers a drop kick to the corner. That move was one of the most impressive things I saw in the cosplay, before the jump into the corner and slamming Bowser in the turnbuckle. Mario thought with his momentum he'd try again, but only got slammed himself into the turnbuckle, stomped down, and choked out against the ring ropes. Another choke attempt, this time with the elbow, only reaching a 4 count. Shoulder tackle by Bowser, leading to a 2 count. Mario's starting to get his neck wrenched quite a bit here by Bowser. Bowser keeps wrenching on it before Mario makes himself a little comeback. Takes a few shots to the body before catching an elbow right to the forehead and a bear hug by Bowser. This lasts for so long before Mario decides to clap the ears twice in a row. 3 times. Ooh, but got caught with the clothesline. And missed the frog splash. Turtle splash, I guess. Mario goes for an Irish whip to the ropes, gives a big boot to Bowser's core. Out of nowhere, Wario decides to stop Mario's momentum and starts to give him a little bit of a pounding into the ring post. Bell sounds, but Wario and Bowser go right to stomping on Mario. This beatdown of our hero is unacceptable, but Luigi comes in for the save. The Mario brothers reunite and take care of the problem. What a good brother. Luigi saves his brother, gives him some comfort, before the boys get back into the ring and intimidate the ref. No rules in this match. It's on our boys to claw their way out of this one. One of my favorite parts of this match is the synchronized moves that the brothers pull off. They really look like Mario wrestling moves. Oh, 1-up elbow slam. Whip to Mario, outside the ring, vaults him over. Mario gets put in a chokehold by Bowser before calling on the people to rally him out. He struggles but finds his footing, only to get hit to the back and then picked up and dropped once again. Boom. Undertaker-style cover and a kick out. Our boy Mario shows why his former name was Jumpman as he vaults over Bowser, who collides into the ring post. Luigi comes back in the match and just goes hard on everybody. Clotheslines and drop kicks, he gives the works to the heels and really sticks it to them. For all the awkward moments and botches from their previous matches, this end part really makes up for it. I mean, look at Luigi's rampage, and he goes on to give a double attitude adjustment to our heels. How sweet was that? The Mario brothers reverse the Irish whip attack on them and slam Bowser and Wario into each other. The brothers go up for a high spot. They climb to the top turnbuckle, build anticipation within the crowd, and then it's a 1-up elbow smash as they 1-up both their opponents. They get the double pinfall victory, and the Mario Bros. Theme song plays to their adulation. They may have been full of awkward bumps, but these matches were pretty awesome to see live, and definitely not something I expected. The pace at times was slow, but it really picked up at the end for these guys. Way to go, Mario Bros. Next match, we have Christian Robinson of Remarkable Wrestling. This is a mixed tag match featuring 2 friends of mine, both cosplayers, against another wrestler of the same organization. I love that he walked out to Colt 45. That is one of the coolest wrestling entrances I've ever seen, and you don't often get a chill song for an entrance. It's usually meant to hype up, but I think this fits his character. With a name like the Psychedelic Psychonaut, how could you not? Next up joining him is Mankind. Yes, the popular face of Mick Foley. This is portrayed by a friend of mine, Camel Clutch Cosplay, also known as Chris.
And their opponents, introducing first.
In case you couldn't quite catch it, his name was Kono Kapukio, but you gotta see who he had as a partner. After a little intimidation to Mankind, he makes his big reveal. And it's the Macho Man Randy Savage, portrayed by the Machoverse, a friend of mine, Aaron. You gotta check out his work. He does impersonations of the Macho Man Randy Savage and cosplay content. Awesome parodies, especially if you're a wrestling fan. You can tell by this ring entrance he nails the Macho Man hand gestures, the characterization, and especially that outfit. They hit the 2 sweet, a handshake, and then they're ready to rumble. The bell sounds and it's Mankind versus the Macho Man to start out. They start by circling the ring back and forth, gauging each other, then locking up and then detaching. Mankind prepares Mr. Sacco, which Macho Man wants no part of and tags out to Kono. Kono dodges Christian's punch before returning with a clothesline and then another of his own. A hurricanrana into the turnbuckle from Kono to Christian. With Christian still in the turnbuckle, Kono gets the idea to jump into the corner with an elbow smash before getting one returned right to him. Christian stalks his way over to Kono's corner and hits him with a face-lock suplex, slamming him down and putting him in a chokehold. Christian wrenches the chokehold even tighter, trying to bring him up to his feet. Kono stands himself and then hits him with a couple elbows to the midsection before running back and getting hit with a drop kick by Christian. Christian pins him down, only a 1 count for that. They both struggle to find their footing for a moment, but when they do, Christian elbows Kono in the face before hitting him with a chop, Benoit style. Don't kill me for that. A moment of celebration later, Christian follows this up by a flip kick right to Kono's chest. Before trying to elbow him again, Kono hits him with a shoulder tackle. He then gets up to the top turnbuckle, going for the high spot. What is he planning here? Top turnbuckle double axe handle gets reversed when Christian kicks him right in the chest and delivers a Northern Lights suplex. Going for the bridge pin, gets a 2 count before the kick out. Christian walks over to Cappuccio, gives him a forearm to the face before Irish whipping him up against the ropes. He charges for Cappuccio, but Cappuccio does lip kick of his own, and then a face kick to Christian. Walks back into the ring, and a sideways DDT. The athleticism on these fellas is astounding. Kono grabs Christian's arm and drags him into the position. Another high spot he has in mind. Kono gets back up to the top turnbuckle, puts his arms up, and jumps for the elbow, this time landing. He's got an idea in mind, Macho's got his hand out for the tag, and they go for a little dual action attack. Elbow bump by the Macho Man, who goes in for the pin. And gets the 3 count. The winner is the team of Kono Cappuccio and the Macho Man, Randy Savage. This was honestly a super entertaining display, and I love how they mixed the regular pro wrestlers with cosplay. This made for a super unique and character-filled event, and I think gives Remarkable Pro Wrestling a pretty distinct identity as an organization. Another Macho Man, Randy Savage, joined them in the ring to hit the 2 Sweet and give the belt to the winning team. Christian, none too happy about the results, decides to cut a promo on his partner, Mankind.
Look, I was out here putting in the work for our team, and you're just gonna sit there and let this happen as you watch your buddy Macho Man Randy Savage, whatever his name is. Look,
Mankind thinks about how to respond before giving him a nice day with a mandible claw. Mr. Sacco straight into his jaws. Mankind seemingly turned on his partner and decides to give a handshake to Kono and the Macho Man with Mr. Sacco. 2 Sweet between our cosplay friends. Check them out at Camel Clutch Cosplays and the Machoverse. From one sport to another, we take it from wrestling to pole dancing. This is presented by Subtle Asian Polers, a dance crew looking to start their own studio. If you'd like to support them in their dream, consider joining their Kickstarter, link below. Dancer featured here is Gigi, performing a lollipop pole routine dressed as Pikachu. Pole dancing takes some serious core strength, which these ladies had in spades. Being able to hang upside down and from your wrists and ankles alone is no small feat. Working in fitness as a day job, I appreciate the acrobaticism of these ladies. Seriously, look at that inverted hang. It is not easy to stay so graceful and still while moving upside down. Wink. The added production value of the cosplay really gives this crew a lot of character, more so than they'd have otherwise, and I think sets them apart. Brooklyn Comic-Con seems to appeal to an older crowd. It's definitely not as family-friendly per se as New York Comic-Con, but if you're looking for an older demographic, I would say this con should suit you just fine. Hopefully the next con these ladies get invited to perform at, they get nicer production in terms of their backgrounds. It looks like the event decided to put a bunch of trash cans right where their setup was, and personally, it definitely affects the aesthetic of the filming. But this was a nice routine, it just deserved a better backdrop. Support these ladies at their Kickstarter and socials linked down below. My phone died when recording Lola's set, but she did excellently as well and did a Chun-Li cosplay. Check out their content for more. Now we have to talk about the turtle. I'm not sure who that guy was, but his turtle certainly was cute. I love the little black bow on it, and he seemed to walk right toward me. That's my boot right there. Finally, gonna wrap it up with the rest of the comic haul. Justin Cermak's Of Death follows protagonist Niece, a high school girl who with her father get involved in a fatal car crash. For some reason, she survived the crash, but is now haunted by imagery of death in every capacity. She finds out that her father is somehow responsible for her coming back to life, and for the reason why death is haunting her. Even the image of a dissected frog in her anatomy textbook is enough reason for her to be sent to a panic. I love the tone, I love the writing, the art style, and the concept. I'm really excited to see how this story plays out. Go to spacesheriff.com for more. Next, we have issue 2 of Beavis and Butthead's Marvel comic. This one is made up of 3 different stories, much like the episodes of the show. We got True War Tales, Dead from the Neck Up, and Diner Pranks. Where I think this issue shines is the visual jokes. All the little names and little writings, it's easy to miss if you're not paying attention, but is perfectly in line with the tone of the show. My favorite story of the bunch, Dead from the Neck Up, sees the boys trying to revive a dead body at a funeral home after watching a zombie movie. They tip the casket by accident and start a riot in the process as everyone's confused over who did it. I love that Beavis wants to come back as Dave Mustaine, only to learn that he's not dead. The inside also features this ad for a Beavis and Butthead album. Man, remember when you could buy physical music? I barely can. This lineup is stacked though, with Nirvana, Primus, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Megadeth, and more. These comics are a must-own for any Beavis and Butthead fan. Next up, by artist Manny714, is Magna AX, a sci-fi story about a boy named Satoshi who comes to the city of New Allure, recently rebuilt after an event called the Grand Disaster. People in this world are able to emanate power called aura from their souls, where he meets Hasuna, a girl whose voice he was called to. He's not quite sure yet her purpose, but as the story goes on, I'm sure we as the audience will find out. Check out the story at magnaax.com and on Instagram at Manny714. Next comic is Astro Boy number 2. Dr. Tenma, who built Astro Boy to replace his real son who died, punishes him, where Astro Boy accidentally wanders into a testing grounds where he's faced up against this yellow monstrous robot. He wasn't meant to survive it, but he does. Being punished for leaving the room when he was told not to, he gets his memory wiped before being put into a car. It's interesting to see a full-color manga in English from the 1980s. I was always a big fan of Astro Boy, so this was an exciting find. Last is the March 93 edition of Inside Pro Wrestling, who controls the balance of power in the WWF. Lots of great photos, including of the Road Warriors, lots of Ron Simmons, and tons of Sting in this issue. I love that they give ink to the older stars, the pre-WWF era. It's interesting to see a kayfabe era publication. It was a really different time. 10 Ways the Survivor series changed. Oh boy, give it 4 years, it'll change a lot more. The back features this cool, bright and colorful ad with Macho Man Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior for video games. Oh boy, don't show Angry Video Game Nerd that rainbow. Overall, this was a pretty cool comic convention. It wasn't as big as New York Comic-Con, but I loved the variety of activities. You won't find a lot of these things at bigger comic conventions under the Comic-Con brand. If I am to be critical, the organization of this convention was definitely lacking. A lot of staff seemed confused as to what was supposed to happen and when. Also, the dance, while a great idea, really lacked in execution. The game stations were taken up the whole time, barely anyone danced, and their staggered allowance inside really hindered the event. Overall though, super fun. I went on a press pass, so I didn't have to pay, but from what I saw, tickets were pretty cheap. I'd definitely go again next year. I'll be moved out to New Mexico by then, so let me know how it is. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support Jazzy Mag, check out my links here, also down below. Go to jazzymag.net for more original content, and have a jazzy day.